Hi everybody, I'm Bill Sanders and this is Watch Art Side, the art and science of watch collection. Today what I want to talk about are watches that have a, a hidden top watchmaker on the inside. And so we're going to look at some. One of them's not too hidden, but the other ones are. So let's start off with the Harry Winston Premier X Center. This watch is from the early 2000s, and it's a caliber 3196. Now, this is based on a Girard Perregaux. And the interesting thing about it is that it has a retrograde seconds hand. And the one I'm wearing also has this is also by Harry Winston. It's a bi-retrograde. And when I got this watch, I became really interested in, who's doing what. And so I'd heard that it was, the base movement was Girard Perregaux. And I contacted a guy I knew who worked at Girard Perregaux, and he was wonderfully helpful. He looked it up and found it and everything else, and sure enough, it was a caliber 3196. But he said there's also this complication that goes with it, and wasn't too sure about it. He says he thinks it's by Agenor. And so I contacted Agenor, and they got back to me, and they said, yep, this is a module by Jean-Marc Viderec at Agenor. Jean-Marc Viderec, who won the Watchmaker of the Year in 2007, he and Roger Dubuis were good friends, and they were both working together making things for Harry Winston. Now, Harry Winston, it's not like working for a watchmaker because Harry Winston wasn't a watchmaker. Harry Winston was a jeweler and was eventually sold to Swatch. I forgot what the year was, but it was 2000 and something or other, and so they became part of Swatch. But this was before they were part of Swatch. Okay, so now this watch right here, this particular Harry Winston Premier X Center, I found on Chrono 24, and it was around 6,000, something like that. Now, what really is that I'm trying to encourage is that you try to find out as much as possible about a watch and find out who's making it. And so if you end up with a watch by that watchmaker, especially with that watchmaker's name, it's going to be worth and cost a whole lot more. But you can find this same watchmaker in something that's more affordable. Now, this one I think it was around 6,000. I mentioned that. Other ones, maybe more, maybe not so much. But the point is that there are a lot of top watchmakers hidden in some of these watches. Okay, let's move along. This next one is the Breguet Classic. And you can say, wait a minute, was that Abraham Louis Breguet? The answer is no, it wasn't. This was by Daniel Roth. Back, I don't know, in the 70s, I think, perhaps late 70s, early 80s, the Chaumet brothers bought Breguet. And at the time, Breguet wasn't like Breguet very much. There were a couple watches, I think the military watches, and there were some contracts that they had with the French military. And so there wasn't really a whole lot. And so they wanted, the Chaumet brothers said, well, let's bring it back to really top watch. And so they hired some top watchmakers, including Daniel Roth. And one of the designs he did was called 3130. I'm not sure what the BA is for, but it was a BA 3130. So with that number, if you find a Breguet 3130, they're 36 millimeters, which is a little small for some. But my goodness, it's like an incredible watch, and a lot of the things that Daniel Roth did was to use the techniques and the very much the style of Abraham Louis Breguet. So you end up with a watch like this, and these watches are, you can find them, and the prices are all over the place, but the best ones, of course, are ones that nobody pays attention to these things. They just don't care. They're lost. You're fine. Okay, so that's one, the Breguet Classic. Now another one is called the Coram Golden Bridge Classic, and there are lots and lots of variations of this same movement called the Golden Bridge, and some of them aren't very golden, but they're still the same movement. Now, this was made originally by Vincent Calabrese. Vincent Calabrese was one of two people. He and Svein Anderson founded this organization. It's AHCI, I think, and it's a French word that I don't want to mangle, but it's for all the top independent watchmakers. And he did that after he had done a thing for Coram. But here again, you have a top watchmaker. If you look at that move, to me, the movement is fascinating. This particular one is in a gold case. Also note that at 6 o'clock is where the crown is for winding it. So that's have to take a special kind of winding for this watch. Very interesting. There are a lot of them around. Maybe if you know what to look for, this may be one you not only could find, but you want to find. All right. Next up is the Sinn Meisterbund. Now, Sinn, for the most part, uses, I think they used ETAs at one time, and then they switched over to Solitas. And they're a very popular German watch, and a very robust German watch, I might add. In other words, these are great field watches, sports watches, and so forth. Now, what they put in the watch is very interesting. It's a UWD 33.1. And the 33.1 was created by one of the most masterful watchmakers in Germany. In fact, I would say the best watchmaker in Germany is Marco Lang. And what he did, he made this UWD 33.1 when he was heading up a company called Lang & Heim. He had made all of the movements and all of the watches for them, but because of some financial thing, he got pushed out. And but before that happened, they were thinking, well, if we sell some of these UWD 33.1, this to be another source of income. Oh my God, this watch the movement is just gorgeous movement. They have these little finger bridges. Actually, they look more like little bell bridges, individual ones on each of the gears of the wheel train. It's just a gorgeous movement. I mean, it's way over your typical Sinn Solita movement or ETA movement. Again, here's a hidden gem, and it's in the Sinn Meisterbund. A reference 6200 is what you want to look for on that one. Now, this next one is about a double surprise to me. Some years ago, there was a Cartier mono pusher, and it had in it this movement, this gorgeous movement. And I sniffed around, I found out it was made by THA. Now the question is, who is THA? So then I had to go and look up THA. THA was a sort of a company or a collaborative or something like that for techniques, horlogies, appliques. And the people who started it were Francois Paul Jorn, Denise Flagolet, and Vigny Alter, Valeny Alter. Okay, so here you have three now. I believe Denise Flagolet started, what's the name of it? His own watch company. It's not called Flagolet. Debussy, I believe, something like that. Anyway, all of these top watchmakers. So here you have this watch, Angles, and I mean by Cartier. Now, the watch I was tempted to buy this watch, the Cartier, on several occasions, but it just wasn't right for me. Just wasn't. And so I was High Horology Lounge is a source where people trade information about high quality watches. And this one, Andreas Allemann, who is one of the smartest, I'll call them affordable top watch pickers among us. And so that's what came up. But he had another one that I'd never heard of before, called the Jean Marais and Gilman Chronograph Alexander III. It has the same movement. And so here you've got finding one, a Jean Marais Gilman Chronograph Alexander III, is not easy. It's very hard to find those. But they're there. And so here again you have just these amazing watchmakers. Now, whether or not those three were actually involved in THA on making this movement, I'm not sure. One of them may have been, some of them may have been, or by then they may have passed it on. This is THA. There were a number of people who became members of it, and then they went off and started doing their own watches. But looking at the movement itself, it's just gorgeous movement. So it wasn't one that was, off the shelf, so to speak. And I think the interesting thing is the Angelus and Messina. That's an interesting one too. Those run about $19,000, so there are 19,000 something Swiss francs, maybe either that or dollars. But they're a little more available. But I think on a more affordable one, if you could find the Jean Marais and Gilman, that would be a heck of a one to find. And again, here you've got this, not this, but these top watchmakers involved in it. Now, this next one is Fabergé. Now, Fabergé is known for Fabergé eggs and jewelry and things like that. They may be in some fashion, but I don't know enough about that. They're a luxury brand, to be sure. Okay, well, they do have some watches, but they don't have in-house. They don't claim to, but they get these fantastic watchmakers to work with them. This one, the Fabergé Visionnaire DTZ, has an AGH 6924, which is Agenor. And it won a Grand Prix Travel Time Watch Prize. This watch, as a travel watch, I really like. The away hour or the second hour comes up right in the middle. And so if it's like where the watch is showing right here, it looks like it's about 10 after 10. And so with the 24, it means 10 after 24 midnight. Neat watch, cool movement in it. And again, who would know? Fabergé. I have a Fabergé, and it has a Frederic Piguet movement in it. And I noticed that there's one that's called, I forgot the name of it. Some newer ones they have all have Vaucheur movements. Okay, now Vaucheur is a movement maker. I'm not sure whether the designs are by Michel Parmigiani, who is part of this vertical watch company that's owned by the Sandeau's family foundation or not, but somebody designed them. It was probably, or there's at least some of them, there's a good probability that it was done by Michel Parmigiani. Okay, now this last one there's no surprise. It's a Daniel Roth Premier Retrograde. Um, Now, this is based on a Lemania 27 NL Bosch. Now, the thing about this watch is that it has a really interesting history. And in fact, there's another way you can find these same Daniel Roth movements and styles of watches, and that is with Bulgari. Bulgari, or I should say, Daniel Roth and Gerald Genta worked for Bulgari for a while. And so some of the watches, if you find a Bulgari watch, there'll be a mention perhaps on it, it's Daniel Roth, or they'll have Gerald Genta. Genta did the design. Daniel Roth would have done the other aspects of it, including all or part of the movement with it. So there's sort of like, and this was because when Daniel Roth was working for Breguet, the Chaumet brothers tried to corner the market on diamonds, and it blew up in their face, and they went bankrupt. And so they had to get rid of it, and then Breguet became part of something else, and finally Daniel Roth said the heck with it and started his own company that was sponsored by, I think, a watch company in Singapore, if I'm not mistaken. And so Daniel Roth had his own brand for a while, and this is one from that brand. But then when they had the owner of Daniel Roth watches, they went broke or had they had problems, they had to sell it, so they sold it to Bulgari. And so I think it was only for about a year, it was Daniel Roth there, but man, some of the coolest watches that Bulgari ever made were from the work by Daniel Roth, and also in terms of designs by Gerald Genta. These are things that I think make watch collecting a lot more interesting than going down and begging an AD to sell you a watch from one that's very popular and then paying a premium on. You get your premium on these by knowledge and finding these hidden great watchmakers. If you know of some other ones, let me know. And maybe I'll tell somebody, or maybe I'll run out and buy it myself. Let me know. This is an opportunity to subscribe if you like. And until next time, this is Bill Sanders for Watch Art Sci, the art and science of watch collection.